Well, we're down to the final 4 weeks of the 2017 NFL season. Good God, this season's going by so quickly as it's now time for my week 13 picks. Well, actually, no, week 14, I mean to say. And last week I went 11-5, which is okay. I know my boy Matthew, I think he said he went 12-4 this last week. Matter of fact, I think he said he went 12-4 back-to-back weeks, so good for him. And I got really lucky, too, at the Steelers beat the Bengals on Monday night, because I would have gone 10-6 if the Bengals actually pulled it off, but then, of course, they decided to beat the Bengals and blow that again. So anyways, here's also the playoff stands in the AFC down to the final 4 weeks as the Steelers and Patriots still have the byes, with the Ravens going to the Titans and the Jaguars going to the Chiefs. Matter of fact, it's the exact same playoff spots and scenes as it was last week. And the NFC, it's now the Vikings with the number 1 seed, and the Eagles still have the byes, with the Panthers going to the Rams and the Seahawks going to the Saints. And my Super Bowl pick, in the AFC would definitely be the Steelers still, but in the NFC, oh my God, I really can't tell. Because I'm sure it would be, I'm pretty confident the NFC Championship would be Eagles and Vikings, but would the Vikings be good enough even at home to take on the Eagles? I'm not so sure about that. So it would be either the Vikings and Steelers or the Eagles and Steelers. And I think the Eagles would beat the Steelers, but I think the Steelers would beat the Vikings, even with the home field advantage that the Vikings would have in the Super Bowl. So now let's get to my picks for this week. And just like last week, I'll try to mention every single playoff elimination and clinching scenario, because I unfortunately missed a whole bunch of elimination scenarios last week. So anyways, we get this week started with our Thursday night game tonight. Big showdown in the NFC South. It's an old rivalry like in the early 2010s, as it's the Saints going to the Falcons. As the Saints had that hard-fought victory against the Panthers last week. That was quite impressive. And the Falcons, my offense struggled against the Vikings' strong defense last week. That did not look good at all. And of course, the Falcons already matched their loss total from last year, as the Saints also got their first win season since 2013. This is very important for the Falcons if they want to continue their playoff run. They gotta start winning out pretty much, and if they want to have any shot making a wild card spot, let alone winning the NFC South, since they gotta play the Saints 2 of the next 3 weeks. Matter of fact, I think all of their games, the final 4 games, are all division opponents, if I remember correctly. They still got to play the Saints twice. They got to play the Falcons and Buccaneers still. So yeah, all of them are division opponents. So anyways, oh boy, this kind of is a difficult one to pick, because the Saints won the game last year since they had that current streak going. But that was a close game too. Remember, it was an offensive shootout. And remember this too. The Saints actually have a pretty good record when they go into the Georgia Dome, the new stadium for the Falcons, but they have a good record when they go to the Falcons. In fact, when you look at the Saints' performance against the Falcons in Atlanta, when they're at their best strength, like they were from like 2009, 2011, then into 2013, when they had a strong defense in all those years, they were actually undefeated in Atlanta when they played the Falcons. They have an even better record during that stretch host at the Falcons than they did when they visited them hosted them for crying out loud. So, seeing this is the case, I think I'm going to actually pick the Saints to get this one. And then we get to our 1 p.m. games on Sunday, starting with the Colts going to the Bills for the first time since 2015. As if the Colts lose this, they are officially eliminated from the playoffs. But then again, too, if they somehow win and then the Ravens win on Sunday night, they are eliminated too. Oh boy, their first losing season since 2011. Kind of reminds me. It's season, and also kind of funny how the Colts are kind of going through the same situation now with luck as they did with Peyton back in 2011, as that team is in a terrible mess too, especially getting destroyed when they visited the Jaguars, and the Bills, of course, got destroyed by the Patriots. What else is a surprise? As both teams are struggling. Matter of fact, Colts, I think, have lost like 3 in a row or something like that, or even more. So, oh boy, last time these two teams played Buffalo, the Bills destroyed the Colts. And of course, that's when there was supposed to be that Super Bowl run, remember, with the Colts. Oh boy, and because of that, and seeing how terrible the Colts have been, I don't really think it's going to be a question the Bills get it. But seeing it's the Bills, you can't trust them fully, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts somehow snuck away with this one either. And then we get to our huge NFC showdown, as it's the Vikings going to the Panthers for the 2nd year in a row. As if the Vikings win this, or if the Packers and Lions lose their games, the Vikings will clinch a playoff spot for the first time since 2015, and the NFC North for the first time since 2015, as I believe they tied, they tied the Patriots as the longest winning streak in the league at the moment after the Eagles lost, as that dominant, strong performance against the Falcons last week, that defensive effort. And the Panthers, they didn't look too good against the Saints last week, but then again, I wasn't really fully surprised about this. Now, this game's going to be kind of difficult to pick for me, because remember last year the Vikings embarrassed the Panthers last year. I think Cam threw like 3 picks or something like that. He had like 2 fumbles or something like that. It was a terrible offensive performance by the Panthers. But remember, both teams actually were not as good then as they were now. The Panthers regressed after their Super Bowl hangover. The Vikings had lost Teddy Bridgewater and stuff. So, I mean, I really don't know what to say. I mean, the Panthers got better, so maybe they could get the victory this time around. But then again, the Vikings have got better, so who knows? But seeing how the Panthers are inconsistent, the Vikings keep pulling off win after win despite being kind of like the underdog in some of these games. I think I'm going to pick the Vikings to win this one and clinch a playoff spot in the NFC North. And then it's the Bears going to the Bengals for the first time since 2009, as the Bengals got their 4th straight losing season. Of course, they were going to miss the playoffs for the like 7th year in a row or something like that. And the Bengals, once again, against the Steelers, they blew it for the 3rd time in a row now. Actually, 4th time in a row if you count the playoff loss. And Vontaze Burfict got lit up like that. Although it was undeserved, it kind of was funny. He got like a taste of his own medicine. Of course, the Bears blew that opportunity to beat the 49ers. Oh my God, that was terrible. As Jeff said, looks like it is time for John Fox and the rest of the coaching staff and general manager stuff to probably hit the door too after this season. And of course the Bengals, if they lose this and the Ravens beat the Steelers, they might be eliminated. I'm not sure, because even if they did lose to the Bears and the Ravens beat the Steelers, they still mathematically could finish both 8-8, and they still have like a tiebreaker. I mean, they could still tie when it comes to conference and division. So maybe the Bengals still might be in if everything goes wrong this week. But man, they got to really pick up the pace if they want to make the playoffs. But the Bears, oh boy. I mean, I was about to say maybe the Bengals would trounce them like they did last time, but at the same time, I mean, the Bears have been terrible on the road, but they have beaten teams that have win records. Well, at the moment, if you think about the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Panthers, so they could beat good teams if they're just lucky, and you can't really trust the Bengals whatsoever, but you can't also trust the Bears either, oh boy. So I think I'm going to pick the Bengals, but don't be surprised if the Bears somehow pull it off. And then it's the Packers going to the Browns for the first time since 2009, as this might be the final week for the Packers without Aaron Rodgers, since he should be good to go after this week, as they're hanging in there at 6-6 to still challenge for a playoff spot. And they still can challenge for the NFC North if everything goes right for them, as the Browns try to avoid 0-13 for the 2nd year in a row. And oh boy, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that probably the Packers would get, but you also can't trust the Packers. They're not fully trustable. And the Browns are getting to that point of the year once again when you get to like 0-12, 0-13, where those teams usually start getting like their first win. So I think the Packers will win, but do not underestimate the Browns. Watch out. They might pull it off against you to get their first win, so don't underestimate them. And then it's the 49ers going to the Texans for the first time since 2009, as the Texans tried to avoid their first losing season since 2013, as the 49ers got that hard-fought victory against the Bears last week, and the Texans, they got spanked pretty hard against the Titans, even though they fought hard until like the very end. And also, if the Texans lose, they are eliminated, because at that point they can't get the AFC South because of the Titans and Jaguars having a better record, and the Ravens already at 7-5 would knock out the Texans. So the Texans better keep up. Also, too, if the Ravens win, they're eliminated too. So Texans gotta have a lot of shit going for them if they want to make a playoff spot. And of course, the 49ers are kind of like a road warrior too, if you remember. So you got take them seriously when they play this game. But overall, I think the Texans will get this one. We get to a surprisingly important AFC West showdown, as whoever wins this, and depending on what happens with the Chargers, probably would lead the AFC West, as it's the Raiders going to the Chiefs. And oh my God! First off, good job with the Raiders beating the Giants last week. But the Chiefs, what the hell's going on with you? You start off 5-0, and now you've gone 1-6 the rest of the way. Good God. And even when Alex Smith put up 4 touchdowns against the Jets, you still couldn't beat him because your defense is terrible. My God. You're like the 3rd worst team in the AFC West behind the Broncos, for crying out loud. That's how really bad you are. And the Chiefs and Chargers, the Raiders and Chargers, are the much better team in this division. And, of course, the Chiefs have won... Oh, no, I was about to say they won like 6 in a row, but no, the Raiders beat them earlier this year. But the Chiefs have beaten the Raiders every time in Arrowhead since like 2013, I believe. That's like 4 in a row. So the Chiefs have the better record here, but the Raiders have also played pretty solid the last 2 years when they go to the Chiefs, went like right down to the wire, including last year's Thursday night game. So you can't really not underestimate the Raiders, and since they're playing much better, and of course the defense of the Chiefs is decimated, especially losing that guy for the penalty into the stands. That was really funny. So I think the Raiders will get this one, but I won't be surprised if the Chiefs somehow get it and right their ship. And then it's the Lions going to the Buccaneers for the first time since 2011, I mean to say, as the Buccaneers will be eliminated if they lose this week, as they can't win the AFC North anymore, and the Panthers and Seahawks would have the better record against them at that point. And wow, the Buccaneers, they blew it against the Packers. They had them right in their midst, and they just couldn't stop them in that overtime finish. And wow, the Ravens absolutely destroyed the Lions. Oh my God, I didn't think it was going to be that bad, and it being worse than I thought. I thought the Lions would be somewhat competitive in the end. As the seats start, wheels are starting to fall off the Lions, but luckily for them, they're going up against the Buccaneers here. I mean, the Buccaneers have played much better right now, since I think they've gone 2-2 in the last 4 weeks. However, the Lions have had very good history against the Buccaneers when they go to Tampa. Matter of fact, the Buccaneers haven't beaten the Lions, I think, in Tampa Bay since 2005. And of course, the Lions are overall playing a much better team right now, so I think I'll take the Lions for this one, but I won't be surprised if the Buccaneers somehow get it, and they'll be probably eliminated from the playoffs. And then it's the Cowboys going to the Giants, as that game was flexed out of 4 into 1 p.m. slot. And as the Giants fired Ben McAdoo and their GM last week too, and Jesus. So for all of you who don't remember, their head coach now is, or interim head coach is Steve Spagnuolo. He's their defensive coordinator. I don't know if he still is anymore. He might still have the defensive clause. But remember, he was the Rams head coach from 2009 to 2011. So his resume for that was 1-15 in 2009, 7-9 2010, and 2-14 in 2011. So not really good tenure with the as a head coach, and so that probably will turn it here as Eli will be back for starter. And the Cowboys got a very needed victory against the Redskins last week too. That was quite impressive, as they still got 2 more games left to deal without Zeke and stuff. Now, of course, if the Cowboys lose this game, the Eagles win the NFC East and get a playoff spot for the first time since 2013, unless they get their win themselves. Oh boy, I mean, this one's gonna be kind of difficult to pick. The Cowboys haven't beaten the Giants in MetLife since 2014. However, those last 2 games were close that the Giants won. However, the Giants are, of course, terrible, and the Cowboys are not doing so good here, but I mean, they're just like so inconsistent. They got destroyed those first 3 games without Zeke and the offensive line having injuries. And then they go and destroy the Redskins, for crying out loud, even though offensively, I think the Redskins probably play a little bit better, but they just couldn't get any points pretty much. So I don't really know what to say about the Cowboys, but they're most certainly better than the Giants right now. So I won't be surprised if the Giants somehow get it, but I think I'm going to pick the Cowboys for this one. And then we get to the 4 p.m. games, starting off with the Titans going to the Cardinals for the first time since 2005, as the Titans are trying to get their first win in season since their 2nd year in a row. And if the Cardinals lose and the Seahawks and Panthers both win, the Cardinals will be eliminated from the playoffs for the 2nd year in a row. So this is quite an important game for both of them. But unfortunately, both are struggling too. The Cardinals, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, they got embarrassed by the Rams last week, and the Titans got that hard-fought and needed victory against the Texans last week. But just neither team's really good. The Titans are overrated so far this year. That 8-4 is way too high. They're like a bad 8-4 team, and the Cardinals are honestly even a worse, a bad 5-7 team if you could look at their stats overall. So it's kind of difficult to say who would win. You can make a case for either one of them, but since I don't fully trust the Titans, and the Cardinals have played a little bit better at home, I won't be surprised if the Titans get it, but I think the Cardinals will win it. And then it's the Jets going to the Broncos for the first time since 2011, as the Broncos got their first losing season since 2010, and they are eliminated from the playoffs. Yes, they are. Sorry, everyone over at Wikipedia who I had a feud with the last couple days over the AFC West stands, but the Broncos are mathematically eliminated. No matter what happens, they cannot get the AFC West, and they cannot get the last playoff seed. Sorry. And when I finish this video and go back to the Wikipedia page, because I saw the AFC West still said the Broncos are still in. It's not true. I even showed the formula, the best case scenario for the Broncos, and they still refuse to accept the reality that they're eliminated. So I gotta fix that. And of course, if the Jets lose, actually, now I think of it, I think the Jets still might be in the playoff hunt even if they lose and the Ravens win. So the Jets might still be in it. As the Jets got that impressive victory against the Chiefs last week, they didn't give up. They're really playing hard so far this year. And of course, the Broncos got destroyed by the Dolphins last week. Oh my God, that was so hysterical. And of course, the Jets haven't won there in Denver since 2010 when Tebow got that magic on in 2011, remember? And of course, the Broncos still in their free fall. Matter of fact, I think the Broncos have the second worst losing streak at the moment behind the Browns, so that's definitely not good for them. So, even though I won't be surprised if the Broncos somehow get it, I think I'm going to pick the Jets for this one. And when the Broncos lose, they will definitely be eliminated from the playoffs. So fuck you all those assholes I've been feuding with over at Wikipedia. And I'm going to be fixing the stands to say the Broncos are eliminated after this video's done. And then it's the Redskins going to the Chargers for the first time since 2009 as they make their second trip to LA. As the Redskins, oh God, what an embarrassing loss against the Cowboys last weekend. Oh, also, if the Redskins lose and the Seahawks and Panthers win, the Redskins are eliminated for the second year in a row. And you gotta start wondering if maybe Jay Gruden's spot should be, coaching job should be on the hot seat very soon. As the Chargers kind of got a barely victory against the Browns last week. But then again, that's not really much surprise since you lost to them last year, for crying out loud. So you got away with that one too. Oh, God, the Redskins. You're not really trustable at all. The Chargers are on a streak at the moment, so I think it's going to be easily the Chargers. But something tells me that the Chargers might screw up, too, and just like they always do the last bunch of years. So I think the Redskins still might have a shot, but oh, boy, it's not really good for them much longer. And then we get to the big outer conference showdown, so big that it actually was moved to 4 to replace Cowboys and Giants, as it's the Seahawks going to the Jaguars for the first time since 2005, as the Seahawks are trying to get their 6th straight winning season, and the Jaguars, if they win, they'll get their first winning season since 2007 when they last made the playoffs. There's no playoff clinching scenario this week for any of the teams. However, the Jaguars have a shot to take the lead in the AFC West, AFC South if they win and the Titans lose. Just like the Seahawks, if they win and the Rams lose to the Eagles, they will also take the lead in the NFC West. And of course, the Seahawks got that incredible victory against the Eagles last week, ending their streak. And despite being banged up, they're still playing hard. Matter of fact, I think the last bunch of weeks they're probably playing better than their performance you thought would be, especially with LOB being down. And the Jaguars got that impressive victory against the Colts last week to get their first non-losing season since 2010. Now, of course, this game is, oh boy, the main showdown will be Russell Wilson against the Jaguars. Big Jaguars have the #1 defense in the league too at the moment, so how funny that the Jaguars have that as the Seahawks had that for like pretty much every year since 2012. Oh boy, it's also going to come down, will Blake Bortles actually be playing solid against the banged up Seahawks defense? So I really don't trust either aspect to it. I don't trust I mean, I guess I can trust the Seahawks defense more since they're still playing at least okay, even though they're injured and stuff. And Jaguars, you can't really trust them on offense, but since they have home field advantage, and Russell Wilson, although he's played pretty good, he has inconsistency, especially going against tough teams on the road. I am going to pick the Jaguars to get this one, but I won't be surprised if the Seahawks somehow get it. And then it's the Eagles going to the Rams for the first time since 2011 as they make their second LA trip too. As the Eagles, like I said, if the Eagles win or the Cowboys lose earlier today, the Eagles will clinch a playoff spot and the NFC East for the first time since 2013. And if I was about to say, I don't think there is this playoff clinching scenario if the Rams win, but now that I think of it, they might make a playoff spot if they win, and the Cowboys lose, the Cardinals lose, the Redskins lose, and the Packers lose, the Lions lose, yeah, and the Falcons lose. Well, actually, the Falcons might be like their only other competitor that maybe could challenge them for a playoff spot. So maybe the Rams might not make a playoff spot if they win this week either. But the Eagles, they got really spanked hard against the Seahawks last week. They finally put them back down to earth, which was probably needed too, because that win streak, because it was the longest I think in the league at the moment. So it eventually was going to fall, and sure it did. And the Rams got that hard-fought victory against the Cardinals where they embarrassed them too, pretty much. Oh boy, so Eagles going up against the Rams' high-powered defense and stuff with that. I think they have a defense that can get a good pass rush. Should I say number one defense? Or it's not number one defense. A very strong defense. If I meant to say offense. Oh boy, this one's gonna be kind of difficult to pick, but the Rams, if you think about it, have lost 2 of their games at home, and were against teams that they honestly probably should have beaten too. And the Eagles, I think, overall are a much, much better team too overall. And as I mentioned too, how about this? I should remember too, the battle between the 2 overall picks in 2016, Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. That'll be interesting to see, but I most likely will not be able to see that, unfortunately. But who knows? Maybe I'll be lucky enough. Oh boy, I think in the end the Eagles might just get it. After that, deflating loss against the Seahawks and finally get them back on their right track. But I won't be surprised if the Rams somehow get it. But I'm still picking the Eagles. And then we get to the Sunday night game, and oh boy, this is big for where I'm at. It's nice to see this back on Sunday nights too. Women, I see this on Monday night again too. As it's the Ravens going to the Steelers with the AFC North on the line. As if the Steelers win this, they will clinch a playoff spot and the AFC North for the 2nd year in a row and a playoff spot for the 4th year in a row. As the Ravens, oh boy, they'll have to go in the wild card there if they have to lose that. And of course, we saw earlier this year when the Steelers destroyed the Ravens in Baltimore, and the Ravens destroyed the Lions last week too. That was impressive. And the Steelers, they just barely, once again for the 4th time in a row, beat the Bengals when they were down in the 4th quarter. Pretty much, they pulled it off once again, which is not much of a surprise since the Bengals had to be the Bengals, of course. Oh boy, so the Steelers beat the Ravens last year when they hosted them. Remember that incredible Christmas game? But remember, the Ravens actually have, I think, a winning record against the Steelers when they go to them since 2012. So even though the Ravens had their struggles, they still can actually pull it off too. You can't underestimate them, especially if Flacco plays good like he did against the Lions, and if the defense plays the top league, elite defense this year. You can also make the case the Ravens might actually pull it off, too. You cannot underestimate the Ravens. The Steelers are not a clear-cut favorite for this one. But since it's the home field advantage and the Ravens' offense is just so inconsistent that their defense, no matter how good it is, cannot probably pull it off, I think the Steelers just might squeak it out. But I will not be surprised at all if the Ravens get it. And we get to our Monday night game, as it's the Patriots going to the Dolphins. And I forgot to mention, too, if the Bills lose or if the Patriots win, they will clinch a playoff spot and a playoff spot for the 9th year in a row or something like that. And they'll clinch the AFC West for the 9th year in a row. And I think they'll break the record, too, for the longest consecutive streak of win a division title, beating the Rams back in the 70s. And if the Dolphins lose and the Titans, Jaguars, and Ravens win, the Dolphins will be eliminated. So, oh boy. The Dolphins, although they've been definitely worse than the Patriots, like last 2 decades almost pretty much now. The Dolphins, remember, have a very good record against the Patriots since 2012 when they hosted them. They're think it was like 3-2 or something like that, and they've embarrassed them in a couple of those games too. And of course, that loss last year, they looked terrible, even though that was like the best Dolphins team in many years, pretty much. So even though the Dolphins are honestly right up there with the Broncos and the Texans and the Browns as the worst teams in the AFC, you can't underestimate them when they host the Patriots. And for the second, every year since 2013 or 2012, I picked them. And even though they're struggling and the Patriots are on a roll, I'm going to pick once again and upset the Dolphins will get it. So those are my picks for week 14, I can't wait for Saints at Falcons tonight. I can't wait for all the games on Sunday night. Sunday night, Monday night. And I can't wait to see all the playoff elimination clincher scenarios as we're getting closer to getting them done. Can't wait to see what the playoffs looks like. And, of course, I got to get back to Wikipedia to edit the Broncos being eliminated. And, of course, I'm getting ready to simulate Week 8 of the 2017 PFA season and getting ready to do the divisional round of the UFL playoffs after that. So be on the lookout for them, too. Oh, boy, I can't wait for tonight.